Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside my co host Connor Gray, and it was another great week of football in the NFL.
Oh, most definitely it was. We got see how see some teams rebound, continue winning, or get a shocking loss.
Exactly, and that was one of the things that I think most people were looking forward to, as you do with every week,
Mm-hmm.
looking to see how teams improve. And I think there's no better way to start this than with the game we had on Thursday night. This was a game that New York, the Giants, taking on the football team. And I mean, a lot of people probably looked at this game and said, these are two teams I don't care about, that I don't think are going to be good, but they're evenly matched. And I feel like being an NFL Network game, a lot of people didn't pay attention to it. But if you did pay attention to it, you definitely got your money's worth. This was a very entertaining game.
Uh, very much so. We got to see like I heard this best part of the. Well, I think one of the best parts of that game was uh it was Daniel Jones not running, actually running with the football, going to the end zone to therefore it gets turned back, gets pulled away because of a penalty. It was the most classic thing to happen to the Giants. Like the one time Daniel Jones doesn't fall down when running, all of a sudden, oh no, you can't have a touchdown.
That might be the most
And
Giant sentence I've heard in a long
and
time.
also then missing a field goal when it mattered.
It's very tough being a New York sports fan. It really is.
Really is.
I mean, you got the Giants and the Jets, who are both, it feels like, have been in a rebuild forever.
Giants have always been in a rebuild since their last since they're winning the last Super Bowl. They kind of slowly went downhill with even with Eli Manning at the helm, but Eli just never really was that elite of a quarterback to really keep them in it.
Exactly. But I mean, this was about as well balanced as of a game you could have got. I mean, you get the field goal war in the fourth quarter with Gano and Hopkins going at it. Hopkins getting the 43-yarder to win the game. And I mean, a perfect 2-minute drill in terms of it actually took 2 minutes.
Yeah.
How often do you actually get a perfect 2 minutes on a 2-minute drill?
Very rare for that to happen.
I know, we always say it, but it never is 2 minutes. So to see one actually be 2 minutes was just kind of funny to me, at
Yeah,
least.
it was.
But of course, that was not the only good game, as there were several. One of them I kind of want to talk about a little bit, in that Cincinnati and Chicago. This was a game I was able to catch a little bit of. Chicago is up 20-3. Joe Burrow gets the team down the field. They score, and then they suddenly get the ball back. Not even, if I remember correctly, it was, I want to say the Bears fumbled it, and Cincinnati got it back and scored. They had two scores in about a minute and a half. And it was just kind of like one of those, here comes Cleveland. Or not Cleveland, that's the next game. They're coming up. But Chicago was like, here's trouble. Here comes Cincinnati. Here comes Joe Burrow in this offense. But the Bears were able to hold on, get a 20-17 win. And the NFC North finally won a game this year.
But now you have now with Chicago, you have Andy Dalton going down with an injury.
Yeah.
You had to bring Justin Fields in, even though he didn't really make much of that of a difference with the game. You got to hope you can see some form of improvement.
Exactly.
If he's going to be your starter next week.
And I think that's always kind of an interesting question. We'll get to it when we preview the week ahead. Is with raw talent like that, you never know what you're going to get, especially with young quarterbacks in the league. You could get an amazing performance. You could have 5 interceptions in a game.
Yeah.
You have no idea what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing we did kind of expect was Cleveland defeating Houston.
It was overall mostly a dominating performance by Cleveland.
Yeah, don't let the score fool you on this one. This was one of those. The Browns did what the Browns were going to do.
Yeah.
While Houston looked very good, Tyrod Taylor still looking impressive. He's one of those guys that you always kind of forget about in the league, but if you give him every resource he can to play his game and let him play his game, he's going to get some wins this year. Houston's one of those teams we all kind of like, well, no Deshaun Watson. They're in a rebuild now. Yeah, they're not going to be very good, but I mean, they could still, snatch a few upsets in there.
Not to rain on that parade though, but Tyrod Taylor did go down.
Exactly.
But Texans will still not activate Watson.
Exactly.
They're gonna just go with the backups that they currently are dealing with.
And that's what I was kind of getting at, is even with Tyrod Taylor down, they still could get some wins.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've still got talent there.
But they're not. I wouldn't even really call them. Like, I know people think, oh, they're just gonna rebuild. It's like they're not really in a rebuild. They're just kind of like, we just need to kind of have some depth at our positions.
It's more like kind of a reload in progress, kind of.
Obviously, last year we saw that they were just that they were bad. They were just very bad. They just didn't have the stuff there. But mainly they just needed a bit of a reload and kind of a little shot in the arm. And all of a sudden, they're playing better than I thought they would be at this point. I know it's only been two weeks, but still, I was thinking, oh, they're just gonna go. Oh, they were gonna be like really. Cleveland would blow them out, but score looks like it didn't happen. But mostly Cleveland had control of this game and didn't let Texans in it.
Exactly. And another really good game, the Rams coming to Indy, beating the Colts. Carson Wentz goes down again.
2 ankle sprains.
I know. Jacob Eason comes in. And I mean, that's just one of those, when you have to throw a backup quarterback in, oh, here you go. Tight game. Good luck. Against the Rams defense.
Yeah.
That's not going to be a pretty day.
You got to deal with Aaron Donald.
Exactly. When you got him breathing down your neck, it's not going to be a fun time.
But this game really, I think, in many ways shows that Stafford, if he had the talent that he's with, if he had remotely any of that talent in Detroit would have been at least a wild card playoff contender. Instead, obviously, it's Detroit. They don't know how to manage players.
But, what do you mean? He had Megatron for 3 years. But yeah, seriously, I mean that. I know we make fun of the Lions, as most people do,
as you should,
as most of America does on a daily basis if you watch football. But I mean, this really showed it. The Rams, it just kind of feels like the talented Lions.
Yep.
And I mean, this kind of proves what a lot of people said about Stafford. If you give him weapons, he's a very good quarterback.
Yeah, he threw 2 touchdowns, threw almost 300 yards. I know he threw an interception, but just kind of, some of that stuff happens when you're playing a good Colts defense.
Exactly.
But Stafford played very well, and I'm happy that he finally has the proper talent he needs to be successful. Rams, of course, before we get into anything else, Rams currently sitting like one of the better teams in the NFC. See, I know the division they're in is the best.
So that's an argument you could make for everyone in the NFC West.
But I'm saying like they still look really good.
Oh, exactly. I know what you mean. I'm just kind of
I get it.
We do a little memeing.
Do a little memeing.
Yeah. But Buffalo goes to Miami. Tua Tagovailoa gets injured. Jacoby Brissett, if you remember him, he's back now. He's a starter.
Dang.
Yeah. It feels like he vanished out of the league.
Yeah.
Even though he really didn't.
No, but you just didn't see him or hear of him.
You just didn't expect it. And the Bills, I mean, that defense, man, looks very impressive. First shutout in a long time for the Bills, it feels like. But they get a 35-0 win, and they did exactly what they want to do to teams. They shut you down. They're kind of just able to roll on offense, let Josh Allen get into his game, feed Devin Singletary. Stephon Diggs having a pretty decent day.
It's like Miami is not a pushover team at all. Like they're a team that could possibly make a run if things go together and Tua can stay healthy. But that's why I think last week it was a bit of a fluke that they just didn't play as well as they could have. I mean, whether they still win that game or not, the score should have been a lot more closer. But that's where I'm like, Buffalo is still the better team in the NFC East. I mean, AFC East, my bad.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Pardon me.
Buffalo joined the NFC East. I think that would be the easiest division pick in a long time.
Pardon me, it's been a long day.
It really has. But speaking of long day, it was a long day for the Jets, as are most days for the Jets when they get on the field. But getting beat 25-6 by New England. And Mike and Perkins asks a very good question. This is actually kind of a tough question. Could the Jets win the Ivy League?
That's a very well. Which one are we referring to?
Uh,
In a matter of smarts or actually athletic ability?
if we're talking, if the Jets had to play an academic bowl with the Ivy League teams, I think they would lose. I think they have some smart guys on. You obviously have to be smart to, at least at something, to get into the NFL. You got to know something. You got to know something about something.
Something.
But if we're talking in terms of football, I don't know. The Yale team a few years ago was pretty good. They were ranked in the FCS poll, which hadn't happened in a while. I don't know. That's a fun theory to think about. I know people try to do could the Alabama beat the Jet? For a long time, it was could Alabama beat the Browns and everything.
Yes.
The answer is, you feel like it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Was Zach Wilson a quarterback? Maybe he threw 4 interceptions against someone. I don't know.
It's a very tough question.
It really is. It seems silly,
but we'll never know.
Exactly. But what we do know is San Francisco, their defense looked pretty good. Holding Philadelphia to 11. How often do you see 11 in a final score?
Very rare. Because you got to be like, how did they get 11? Because you have to think about it. It's like, oh.
Yeah. You get the touchdown and 2-point conversion. But
then
17-11, the Niners, once again, another NFC West team.
Yeah. The one thing is, and they played a good Philadelphia team.
Exactly.
It's like, I know people think of the NFC East as a very bad division, but the Eagles are not a bad team by any means. They could have a chance to possibly make a run for wild card, even win their division, which I think they're still the favorites. Despite I know some people in the media will want to be like, the Cowboys are the favorite. I'm like, let's hold it back up here until Cowboys get a relatively good defense. I'm gonna Eagles are the better one, but they held the Niners offense to only 17, which is that's actually a bit impressive because usually that Niners team can usually get over 20.
Usually, yeah.
Throughout the whole, whether it take the course of the game or very quickly, but the fact is that it was a very hard fought defensive game. Makes it interesting.
Exactly, and then another very interesting one that happened. Las Vegas going on the road, still not going to get over calling them Las Vegas. It just sounds weird.
It really. Yeah.
But Raiders-Steelers is a matchup that, I mean, it's just been a legendary matchup ever since the 70s, I would say. Anytime these two get together, you're going to get a hard-hitting, physical game.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, it happened. I mean, your leading rusher at 38 yards. There's not a lot of good front seven battles going on, but
well, that's what happens when Big Ben is literally in control of that entire offense.
And when Derek Carr's on fire too.
Derek Carr, good lord, he went off.
Throwing for 382, and Vegas getting a 26-17 win in Heinz Field.
Vegas is really showing. The Raiders are really showing that
they're legit this year.
They're very legit. That's why I know, since 2016 or 2017 when Carr went down with his injury, people were ever since that during that span to now, people were like, they're not very great. Derek Carr is bad, and it's like, no, Derek Carr. I've always looked at Derek Carr. I'm like, this guy can actually do something. Can show that he can do what he's made of. This guy will kill you.
Exactly.
They were the team last season during the COVID year. They were the only team to beat the Chiefs last year in a regular season game that did not count 17. But Vegas is legit unless they just have a mid-season collapse, which, not gonna lie, with Gruden with Gruden as your head coach, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But as of right now, Vegas looks very legit. You went up against a good Steelers defense, and I'd say a decent to can be good Steelers offense.
Exactly. And speaking of kind of going above expectations, Sam Darnold looking a bit better than I thought he would.
What he needed was just get away from the Jets and Adam Gase. Those two things held him down.
I think so.
He was seeing ghosts. Well, in New York, be like, and what do I do? And then it's like, gets to Carolina, has played very well for the most part. I mean, as right now, he's looked really good.
It also helps when Jameis Winston returns to the form we all are used to seeing Jameis Winston in,
Well,
throwing a couple of interceptions.
The bakery is back in business.
Yeah, the turnover stand is back open for Jameis Winston. It was off. He had a bye week. He had a business trip, I guess, to make.
And if your team is able to get about 3 interceptions, you get a free crab legs.
I guess he would, yeah. But I mean, you also can get that free W, you know.
Yeah.
That's something that Winston also does. You got to eat that W.
You get that for dessert.
Yeah, I mean,
on the dessert.
I don't know. Some people like to have their dessert first. Carolina most definitely did, getting a 26-7 win, looking very good against the Saints, who, you know, as you remember from the week before, just destroyed the Packers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's some linear logic for you.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina beating New Orleans, who beat Green Bay. And we'll get to Green Bay in a little bit. But Denver is another team from the AFC West that is 2-0 somehow. I mean, that as a Chiefs fan, I know that's got to be a little weird looking at the standings. You know how it's going to end up probably at the end. But just looking at it this week and seeing the Chiefs in third, it's just got to be a little bit interesting.
Denver fans are celebrating and telling you don't look at who we played.
Yeah, I mean, you get a 23-13 win over Jacksonville. Teddy Bridgewater does what most quarterbacks are going to do to this Jags defense.
It's like one thing you have. Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback.
He is.
It's like I will say, but talent-wise, Denver should not really be 2-0. But when but who you play on your schedule is like you got the victory. That's really all that matters in the end. As so far, I mean, obviously you want to be the better team at the end of the year, but still, it's like Denver. If they actually played some better teams, they would not be 2-0 right now.
Exactly, but speaking of good teams, Arizona. Just what a game they had.
That was it. I managed to be able to rewatch the game later after I got off work. But it was like I was so mad I was not able to watch that game because Fox decided, you know what, you're not getting afternoon games. You get to watch drag racing.
You know, everyone's favorite pastime on a Sunday afternoon in America, drag racing. But Arizona looked. This is one of those games where you kind of expected, okay, Minnesota's going to wake up. They're going to do what they need to do to win this game. And, I mean, they did exactly that. But at the same time, you have to stop Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot let him do what he does.
No.
But when Kyler Murray decides to go off, that's going to happen. He throws for 400 yards.
Oh, that is just that. I mean, just seeing 400 yards from any quarterback, regardless of level, is just insane.
It really is.
But the best thing I think also happened with that game was the return of Gus Johnson to the NFL.
That was also a very well done thing. Seeing him finally back doing NFL games. That's a tough grind to think about too. Doing Big Noon with OU Nebraska, doing that game, getting done at 3, you've immediately got to go back into prep mode for tomorrow and then get ready to do that mid-afternoon game in Minnesota, Arizona. And then you got to get ready for Monday to get ready to prep back for college football. So, I mean, there truly are no days off for the life of an announcer.
No, not for him, especially it was just one of obviously he's not going to be doing your game of the week because that's obviously 8-man and Buck. But it's like the fact he's just able to do those games again is like he elevates a game regardless of how boring it could be.
Exactly.
He makes games more enjoyable to
I mean, that was the thing about the pandemic. He made Kansas and West Virginia entertaining to listen to. And you got to have some talent to pull off Kansas and West Virginia.
It's why many people would rather wish he was the main guy for NFL games or any other group. I'm just happy he's a main guy for college football because college football needs a guy like him.
Exactly.
And then but the fact he's now back doing NFL, even if it's not with CBS anymore, it's like it just brings back some nostalgia because he had some of the best calls when he was with CBS.
Exactly. But another team that had a lot of good calls, Tampa Bay, dropping 48 on Atlanta, 48-25. This was, I wouldn't say exactly what you thought was going to happen, but it was definitely entertaining seeing, a Buccaneers team that, we know had a lot of offense. We didn't see it a whole lot because that's not how you design. Tom Brady's not a guy that's going to throw the ball 60 times a game like Jameis Winston could. But just seeing that offense and all those weapons get to light up and do again It's just an absolute treat to watch.
Yeah.
Unless you're an Atlanta fan.
Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those. Obviously, Brady went off like we thought he was going to, and then just watching that. One thing you got a little worried with Tampa because they let Atlanta back in that game.
They did, yes.
Like second quarter, third quarter, I forget when they got real close, and then obviously Tampa Bay's offense went, oh wait, let's actually pick it up.
Yeah, they put their foot back on the gas and never.
And the
looked back.
defense decided, hey, we should not be letting these guys score on us. So they finally woke up. I'm not actually as worried about that offense like I was initially. I'm worried about that defense now.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, this defense was one of the better ones last year. Why are they not playing well right now?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't you can't do that again. Like because 2 weeks in a row, I know last week was because against Dallas.
Yes.
Like, what's wrong with that defense? Of course, I know some people wanted to point out toward that offense for Tampa. I'm like, no, the defense is mainly the problem. The offense so far has not been that big of an issue with Tampa. It's been that defense being consistent. We know that Tampa Bay defense can dominate people, but then again, I think there's some they don't really have the guys they would typically be starting at safety right now. I think they're dealing with some injuries.
They are. I mean, that's
what
something.
team is it right now?
Yeah, especially with all the quarterbacks we mentioned getting injured earlier on.
Oh, by the way, I know we skipped it. I think did Baker get injured?
He got a little dinged up, I believe. What they showed came back negative. It was nothing serious, but it was one of those just kind of hope that nothing bad happens, and thankfully nothing did.
I know some people had their opinion on Baker, but as from a fan standpoint, you don't really need a guy like him going down, especially since he's one of the younger faces of the league.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that even if you don't, he's one of those guys that's kind of controversial in that you don't have to like him, but you have an opinion on him. He's one of those guys, he's kind of like Brady, not in terms of he's won 6 Super Bowls or 7 Super Bowls or anything, but everyone has an opinion on him. It's not like most guys where you can look and be like, yeah, he's good, he's likable. You know who he is because you either watched him in college and loved him or hated him. If you were in the Big 12, you probably hated him unless you were an OU fan. But seeing just what he's able to do so far, and not just him, of course, but that entire Browns turnaround, the fact we're even considering them playing Houston to be okay. Oh, yeah, of course. They'll win that game.
I'm still mad at Kareem Hunt for only giving me 5.6 points.
Well.
Too bad I still won fantasy, but still.
Yeah, that's life sometimes.
Thank you, Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's something.
That's for later.
Yeah, that's something Chargers fans know all too well. Life is difficult, and that got proven once again. Getting beat by Dallas 20-17 in a day where your defense shows up, you hold the Cowboys to 20, but Dallas's defense also happens to show up and hold you to 17.
Because I was actually able to watch this game, so the one problem I had with is like that Chargers offense, there was some very questionable things going on, and also Justin Herbert didn't really play like he did last week, where he threw really well, got himself a touchdown or two. He got a couple touchdowns, but he threw 2 interceptions, and I think one of them was actually on the Cowboys side of the field.
That'll always do it.
So that didn't help. So the offense didn't do themselves any favors. My opinion, the better team did not win that game, but all that matters is who got the W. And
exactly.
Well earned for the Cowboys.
Exactly. And then this next game here really looked like it was going to be the game of the day. It really did. Tennessee comes storming back. It's the team we all expected the Titans to be.
Mm-hmm.
They go up to Seattle and get a 33-30 win in overtime. Derrick Henry runs for 182 yards.
The thing is, people are like early on in that game were giving Henry so much crap for not playing well, and then boom, turns it back on.
Yeah, he does what he does best. Also, Ryan Tannehill threw him for 347.
I'm so mad because just the luck of the draw.
Mm-hmm.
I have Julio Jones on my fantasy.
Yeah.
Didn't pick him this week. Proceeds to get over 100 yards. I'm like, I could have gotten 10 points out of this guy.
That's fantasy football for you, folks.
But all that matters is I still won.
Well, you can win in fantasy, but it comes at the cost of the Chiefs, who get beat 36-35 by Baltimore.
Why? Why did you blow that lead? Oh yeah, we don't have a defense at times.
Well, I mean that seemed to be
Wait.
a fun part about this game. Two elite offenses, also two teams not really known for defense.
No, but the biggest thing is takeaway from the game is obviously good job on Baltimore getting back in that game, and also just the Chiefs offense just decided how do we play offense. I will say the Baltimore did a great job of keeping Tyreek Hill under control. Tyreek didn't really do much in this game, but Mahomes still played relatively well, like as well as he could. But defense decided we just. It's really hard to really say much about this because 25% of the cap is the defensive line. Chris Jones and Frank Clark take obviously most of that percentage. But Chris Jones is just mainly a defensive tackle. The fact he's being used as a pass rusher as a defensive end, this isn't really working in some aspect. And I know defense showed up early in the game, getting a pick six off of Lamar, and then just doing obviously just kind of making sure. But when your entire structure of your team is basically let's try to outscore the other team, let's not really worry about how our defense will respond.
Exactly. I mean, it took Cleveland having a mental breakdown, it felt like, last week for the Chiefs to get back in that one. And Baltimore's got a little bit more mental toughness. They've been in this situation a bit more often than Cleveland has.
Though I will say this now, it really shows what needs to be. Obviously, Chiefs are not invincible like people thought they were going to be. I know among the Chiefs community, we actually believe, hey, this team could go undefeated the whole year. Obviously, week 2 kind of gave you a reality check. We're not invincible. We can actually lose games even with our better players on defense and offense.
Exactly.
We're not everything, but props to Baltimore for staying in there. Lamar playing very well. That defense for Baltimore stopping the Chiefs when they needed to and getting the W.
Exactly. And I mean, Lamar Jackson having to be both QB1 and RB1, still working for the Ravens. He runs for 107 yards, which is just so weird to think about, even in this age of the NFL where we see a lot more dual threat guys. Yeah, seeing a guy who can still pull a 100 and 100 game is always impressive to see.
Very, but he's just you know what you're going up against with Lamar Jackson.
Especially with 3 running backs out for the Ravens.
It's I don't know why it's if you're opposing teams coming up, whether it be this week or in the future weeks, it's just focus on stopping. Make Lamar beat you with his arm. Lamar is better at running the football than he is really throwing. Not saying that he doesn't have a throwing ability, which he does. He can throw well, but stop because if he's allowed to run, he can keep drives alive. Just you got to worry about stopping him first before you think about their 4th string running back at this point.
Exactly, and I mean Lamar was able to get throws off Marquise Brown, good old Hollywood Brown, getting 113 receiving yards on the day. He was able to just kind of go off against the Chiefs defense. And that's something that you kind of got to get ready for, as Mike mentions. Once again, a fourth of the cap spent on the Chiefs defensive line. My opinion, it's a waste of money.
I mean, that's what we some people on Twitter were saying that were with the blue check marks.
And then speaking of blue, that's Detroit's color in more ways than one, because when they play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they're usually left feeling pretty blue. And Green Bay, once again, 35-17. I mean, what did you expect from this is a Green Bay-Detroit game. This only goes one way. The Packers win by a lot, or they win by not a whole lot, but still a lot.
It's actually, when watching this game, it was actually close for a good portion of the game, and then Green Bay decided haha, you think you guys can play with us? Here, check this out. Aaron Rodgers just goes off and is Aaron Rodgers again.
Yeah, I mean, that's always good to see Rodgers still showing he's still got it, which, I mean, everyone expected him to still have it. The whole, is he going to play for the Packers? Is he not? I saw people kind of joking around saying he was going to throw this season to, try to get himself out of there or something. Obviously, that's not the case. Or, if that was the case, Detroit is just really bad at doing this.
Yeah.
But I mean that is life for a Detroit fan, sadly. The Lions have been this way for a long time. You switch quarterbacks. You had a sign of hope last week against the Niners. Hey, we had this great 5-minute stretch here where we almost got ourselves back in this game. Maybe that's something to build on, but alas, when you play the Packers in Lambeau, that's not going to happen.
Well, it just it's like, what do you expect was going to happen? You think you're going to actually win that game?
I mean, I've seen crazier. We all have.
We all have, but still, it's like you kind of like you just don't see it with Detroit.
Exactly. But as we move on to the Week 3 preview here, the first game, the Thursday night game, Carolina taking on Houston. I think this will be kind of one of those weird games at NRG. I mean, the Texans being home, they're going to be ready to go. You got another quarterback coming in. I believe, if I remember correctly, there will probably be someone new starting for the Texans this week. But I'm really interested to see how Carolina continues the pace. I mean, you looked good again. They look good against the Jets, but granted, they're the Jets. But then you prove it against the Saints.
Yeah.
And now you've got a really good chance to be 3-0.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, obviously, Carolina is obviously pretty much the favorite in this game. But really interesting to see who's going to be, how the Texans are going to respond with obviously having to play a backup quarterback, and how can that team as a whole try to hold off Carolina. I mean, it's just they're going to be holding off the inevitable defeat.
Exactly, and Vegas tends to agree. Carolina is an 8-point favorite in this game.
I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina wins this by double digits and doesn't keep the game close.
I wouldn't be either. This will be 7:20. You always got to love 7:20 kickoff.
Yeah.
So, we can't just have 7 or 7:30. It's got to be 7:20.
On the those ads in.
Yeah, got to get that 20-minute pregame show in. That'll be on the NFL Network, which, can I say, that's just, I do not like, I understand the reason of having games on the NFL Network to draw attention to it.
Yeah.
But with, the rumors I'd seen, maybe Amazon Prime's going to get Thursday Night Football and stream it exclusively on Twitch and Prime Video, which, I mean, that's kind of a neat concept, but at the same time, that would be maybe the most toxic chat room I've ever seen.
It wouldn't be, I think it'd be, I'd make sure your kids not be, if they're not high school or any probably junior high.
Yeah, that would need a rated M for mature on that one. Because once one of those teams starts losing, it's going to get really bad.
Yep.
But it will be a very fun week of football. This game will not be that fun, I don't think. The football team goes up to Buffalo to take on the Bills.
It's either going to be a defensive battle or Buffalo's going to blow them out.
Exactly. I think that Buffalo will probably do their job. I mean, they're an 8.5-point favorite here, which doesn't surprise me.
I fully expect Buffalo's offense to show up ready to play. Defense obviously going to be there to play. Washington's, I think, defense will probably give Buffalo's offense a bit of a fight, but I think obviously Josh Allen the offense and that defense for Buffalo will just be too much.
Exactly. And then next game we've got up, the Bears come to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Browns are the favorite. And, I mean, this will be kind of an entertaining game, getting to see, like I mentioned with Justin Fields, what is he going to do?
Mm-hmm.
We really do not know. Andy Dalton listed as questionable. Baker Mayfield also listed as questionable. So this will be kind of a battle of you got to have depth to win.
Most definitely. I mean, if Dalton's not able to play, you got to hope Fields can handle that pressure. I mean, you got a good Browns defense. Baker's going to be in. If Baker's not going to be there, going to be starting. I expect Chubb and Kareem to get a lot of carries.
Yeah, at that point, you might as well make Nick Chubb the quarterback and have him hand the ball off to Kareem. Just run a read option with those two.
Just do a wildcat formation.
Especially with Jarvis Landry going to be out too, and maybe still no Odell. If you're Cleveland, you got to have a game plan in mind of if Baker does not play, do we do what Denver did last year when they had no quarterbacks?
But I don't think being as serious as some people thought it was. I think Baker will be back, and I think they'll win this game no problem.
I think so. Another fun one in the fact that there will be points scored in this one. The Ravens head to Detroit. Points are going to be put up on the board in this game.
Oh yeah, no question about that. I Detroit. I know Goff. I know Detroit, Goff being there. I know Goff can throw, can obviously get a bunch of yardage and all that. But it's like, what do we? It's like I fully expect this to probably. It could end up being a shootout.
You know, it really could. This could be.
I mean, both teams don't really have much of defense.
No.
Baltimore kind of just like has. They just kind of exist on defense. Detroit, what is a defense? It seems like
they're still trying to figure that one out.
They've been figuring that out for a long time.
Exactly. Baltimore with the 8.5 point favorite here, and that's really no surprise to me.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised Baltimore wins by a good amount or the shootout and they still remain victorious. I mean, Lamar Jackson, there's really nothing you can't do wrong with that.
Exactly. He's one of those guys that even though you know what he's going to do, it's still ridiculously hard to contain.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Colts taking on the Titans.
Oof.
This is going to be one. Carson Wentz is questionable for this game. I mean, so many injuries. And, I mean, I think Tennessee is going to have a very fun time in this one, especially if Derrick Henry can play like he did against Seattle again.
If Derrick Henry and Tannehill play like they did this last week, there's no question Tennessee wins this game. Obviously, if Wentz is actually being able to play, the game could be close, but I don't think the Colts will have enough in them to stay with Tennessee.
Yeah, Titans are listed as the 5-point favorite here, with the game being in Nashville.
I mean, unless Wentz is able to play, I probably would have upped that the amount of points.
Yeah, the Chargers and the Chiefs. This is a little AFC West action. Man. You get Herbert versus Mahomes. This is kind of something that some people were looking forward to. See how the young gun and the slightly younger gun.
It just when playing the Chargers, it just feels like, oh man, you're gonna be in for a headache.
It's always a headache playing the Chargers. Sometimes they're just getting in their own head and they're just giving themselves a migraine, and you just kind of sit and watch. But I think the Chargers will put up a fight. I mean, this is one of those games that most people are going to look at and be like, oh, you know, Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs. But, I mean, it's a rivalry. It's a division game. It's going to be very important to both sides. I mean,
I believe the last time these two played last year, they came down to a field goal. Or maybe that was the first
I
game
believe so.
But it was just like, I fully expect both offenses to come out and play well. I think they could, with obviously with the defense that Chiefs have, they could probably give Herbert some problems, but obviously I would still pick Chiefs to win.
Yeah,
as of right now.
And Vegas has got the Chiefs as a 6.5 point favorite. They're so far the highest over under I've seen of 55.
Yeah, I expect probably a lot of points scored, but I think Chiefs obviously Mahomes going to do his thing. Offense will just ball out.
Exactly. Now another one I'm kind of looking forward to. The Saints and the Patriots. This is one of those matchups that a few years ago we would have been talking about Drew Brees versus Tom Brady, but now it's Jameis Winston versus Mac Jones. That just shows you how much time flies, especially in the NFL. And I mean, this will be, every week is a big test for the Patriots when you're breaking in a young quarterback. But the defense will be there to help, and against Jameis Winston, it could be one of those games, you know. Jameis might throw 5 picks. He might throw 7 touchdowns. You really don't know with him.
You never know with him. Obviously, with the way that system in New Orleans is, they kind of, instead of letting him run wild, they kind of like reel him in a little, like, hey, let's try not to throw about 5-7 picks a game. Let's actually try to get you on a consistent basis to get it down the field. But Mac Jones has played pretty well so far. It's really tough to say who's going to win this one.
It really is. I mean, Vegas has New England as the 3-point favorite, which I would expect being in Foxborough, but it would not shock me at all to see New Orleans win this game.
No, it wouldn't either. But if I had to obviously pick in between the two, I think Jameis Winston probably might struggle with his, obviously the stronger possibility of him struggling with turnovers. I think New England wins that game.
I think so. Now this one I'm really on the fence on. The Falcons and the Giants. Two, I would say, pretty evenly matched teams. They're both 0-2. Someone is going to win.
I didn't expect the Tank Bowl to be this early.
Hey, I didn't expect two teams that will probably be in the top 10 of the draft already going at it again.
Wouldn't be surprised if it's top 5.
I wouldn't either, to
But,
be honest. But, I mean, it's going to come down to which defense is not as bad.
Yeah.
I think if we're talking about that, you have to consider the fact that the Falcons did literally play Tampa Bay. I think the Falcons are the better team slightly
Yeah, I would
by
agree
like
also.
maybe a point or two. I mean, Giants are a 3-point favorite being at home. I really want to take the Falcons in this one because I just think Matt Ryan and company can get the job done. But at the same time, it's Atlanta, so I don't trust them.
I can't. You can't argue with that.
You can't argue with
they
logic.
They just the Falcons themselves. It's just like I don't trust it either. But I'm just gonna take Vegas's who they're picking. Just pick the Giants. Just I don't expect the Falcons to be that competent, especially with that defense.
And then this is kind of my upset alert. Hey, watch out! Game of the week, the Bengals and the Steelers. What can you say about a classic hard-hitting rivalry like this? Well, one thing you can say is I think Joe Burrow's going to have a pretty good day.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I know that Steelers' defense is pretty good, but if way Burrow and that way the offense has been rolling with Cincinnati, they've been able to get yardage, score points. I think as long as he doesn't really turn the ball over that much, well, the team as a whole doesn't turn the ball over very much, they could win this game.
And I mean, some injury things coming out today, the little injury report for the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger listed as questionable.
Ooh.
Devin Bush is listed as questionable.
Oh, well.
Joe Hayden is listed as questionable.
Oh,
This has
man.
all the makings of who really knows. Steelers are a 3.5-point favorite. These are two teams that, I mean, when you look at the stats, they're almost perfectly balanced. They both are about 20 points a game and give up 20 points a game. They're both pretty even on passing. The Bengals are a lot better at running the ball, but that's kind of by design for the Steelers because of Big Ben wanting to be in control of the offense. That's just how he is. That's not going to change,
No,
especially in the
it's
twilight of his career.
But I would not be surprised, especially with the injury report coming out with the Steelers. It's like I would not be surprised if Cincinnati upsets them.
I wouldn't either. I mean, this is going to be a very fun game to keep an eye on.
So it's really hard to pick between these two, but I'm still going to play it safe and pick Steelers if Big Ben is still there, able to play, and that defense doesn't give up a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
This one will be kind of easy to think. Yeah, the Cardinals taking on the Jags. I mean, what can you say about the Cardinals that hasn't already been said? They look fantastic. They're playing about as well as you'd expect them to play. Jacksonville is still not very good. That's expected.
Jacksonville is playing a team from the NFC West, which is the best division. I mean, it's not a hard pick. For Arizona.
Obviously, the real winner is probably people who bet the over because there are probably going to be a lot of points put up by Arizona.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, don't blame me. I never take my gambling advice ever because you'll probably be wrong unless you aren't.
You really shouldn't take anyone's gambling advice.
You should never take advice about sports betting or sports in general because 9 times out of 10 it's usually wrong. But Arizona's 7.5-point favorite here for those who are interested. But speaking of interesting, the Jets play the Broncos at good old high in the mountains at old Mile High. This is actually the biggest spread I've seen in terms of differential. The Broncos are a 10.5-point favorite. I mean, it's the Jets. That's really all. The fact that that's all you have to say sometimes is just, it's the Jets.
It's the Jets.
Kind of shows how far downhill they've gone. Zach Wilson did not have a good game against the Patriots at all.
Through four picks.
I don't know. I expect.
One thing I think Zach was trying to make something happen that didn't need to happen. A lot of that.
Exactly. He was being a rookie. He
Yeah,
was trying to force some things that weren't there.
obviously after that game, the coaches talked with him and told the media that we're trying to reel him back on making better decisions. Don't take unnecessary risk. It doesn't matter if it's a boring game, but we're focusing on trying to win.
Exactly.
So I think they can as long as Jets don't have that turnover problem, they don't get blown out.
I agree.
But I still think Denver takes this one because it's the Jets. But I think Jets played a little better ball than what they played last week.
I think so too, but I think the Broncos are just going to have a very fun time with this one.
I'm gonna laugh if Denver loses.
Well, I mean, you're a Chiefs fan. You should laugh anytime your
I laugh at
rivals lose.
It's just mainly because of how the Broncos fell after winning the Super Bowl. It's been a hilarious ride watching almost the entire rest of the division suffer.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of fun to think about. The second the Broncos win, everything fell apart. The Chargers kind of went to a soft rebuild for a year.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers leaves and then retires. Denver falls right off a cliff. Kansas City has all the pieces in place to finally compete. And the Raiders just kind of existed for a while and are now getting back together.
And I think, obviously, just if you lose to the Jets, I will laugh at you no matter what. Unless the Jets really prove they're legit.
Unless the Jets turn into a very good team very quickly, which I don't think will happen.
No, they don't. I think with the new group of guys they have in the front office and the coaching staff, I think they're going to be more competent within the next few years. But I still do not see them still being remotely great. I think there'll be improvements throughout the year. Right now, it's basically Zach Wilson just needs to get better through the experience.
Exactly.
I don't expect him to just ball out and beat Denver. I mean, Denver has to play a really bad game in order to get killed.
And then the next game up is the Dolphins and the Raiders. Going to be in Vegas for this one. Once again, one of those, both quarterbacks are listed as questionable. And Josh Jacobs also listed as questionable for the Raiders. So, I mean,
wait, Derek Carr's questionable?
That's what the report says. This was as of yesterday, too. Tua we expected to be questionable.
Yeah, Tua I understood, but I never heard anything on Carr.
I didn't either, but this is just a really bad week for quarterbacks. And I mean, everyone is, of course, too, but injury bug once again striking early and hard this year.
I mean, it struck like around week 3 last season.
You know, that's what I mean. We're about this time again, and once again getting struck.
Yep. So it's like I would assume Carr would be back. Tua with that rib injury. Who really knows? I know they said it was a day-by-day thing, but I'm still not really sure if he's going to be good enough to play.
Exactly. I mean, Raiders are a 3.5-point favorite. If we get news on either quarterback, I would expect that to change almost immediately.
If both quarterbacks are healthy enough to play, I'd still say it'd still favor the Raiders because they're playing in Vegas.
Exactly.
But I would expect because Raiders have been playing very good football these last 2 weeks. I would not be surprised if they win this game, no problem.
I would not either. And the other thing that kind of needs to be mentioned is if Derek Carr did not play, Marcus Mariota is on the injured reserve. So you would be digging into the depth chart for this one.
Yep. So it just who really knows what will happen?
Exactly. No one. You really never know. And I mean, that's the worst part is we're only a few weeks into the season and we're already having to play the what if guessing game.
Feels like you always have to do that.
I know, that's the worst part about football.
Oh, this one's going to be a good
But yeah, this is the matchup I'm really looking forward to. And I mean, it's kind of weird not being the Sunday night game, but
it really should be, but that's just not how they set it up.
Exactly. You get the Buccaneers, you get the Rams. This is one of the marquee matchups, really, this is one of the marquee matchups of the week. And I mean, Vegas is kind of split on this one. Tampa Bay is a 1-point favorite. So I mean, Vegas really doesn't know how to feel about this one.
No, I wouldn't know how to feel about it either. I mean, obviously Tampa's still being Tampa. As long if that defense can not just actually can actually be what it can be, they could possibly beat the Rams. But obviously, Rams still have a good defense, and you actually have a much better quarterback with Stafford. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a shootout.
I wouldn't either. This is one of those types of games that
Or this might be the one game where Brady shows weakness.
it might be, you know. I think this is going to be, like you mentioned, this is going to be a shootout, I think. Both these teams are just so good on the offensive end, but I really do not know who to take in this one. If this was last year, I probably would have said Buccaneers, but this year,
last year,
no idea.
Last year, we both would have said Buccaneers, but oh man, this one's really. Cause I'm just gonna be like, because this is in Los Angeles. I'm gonna be against Brady on this one, even though it's not smart to do against Brady.
You never bet against Tom Brady,
but
unless you do.
I'm gonna be that guy, and I think Rams go 3-0.
All righty. I still can't do it. I still cannot bet. I think Tampa will probably find a way to win this one, but like I said, I would not be surprised if LA takes it. But the next one we got up here, Seattle coming into Minnesota. This is another one that Vegas really split on. Even ESPN is pretty split on this one. A 2-point favorite for the Seahawks taking on Minnesota. I mean, this will be a great quarterback duel. Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins. I mean, running back matchup. You got Chris Carson and Dalvin Cook. This is going to be one of those just kind of so many weapons on both teams. This is going to be very fun to watch, too.
Yeah. You got Russell Wilson and company, and to give props to Minnesota. They gave Cardinals a run for their money.
I know. So far, they're very competitive. They just haven't pulled it out yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously because of how split this one is, I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins this one. But I'm gonna be, because of how I think, because how high I am on the NFC West. I'm gonna pick Seattle to win this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Seattle as well. I think this will be another one where Minnesota looks very good for about 3/4 of the game,
and
then they're gonna have they're gonna have one or two mistakes. Seattle jumps on it and finishes it off.
Not gonna lie, I fully expect that defense for Minnesota to class for Kirk Cousins makes a mistake. That's how bad. That's how I think how worse that defense has gotten is that they're not. Keep in mind, they're not terrible. They make too many mistakes.
Exactly.
While as Kirk Cousins, I don't think makes as many as people think he really does.
Exactly. And then finally getting to the Sunday night game, the Packers and the Niners.
Ooh.
This will be another fun one. And this will be, once again, very, very tough game. 3.5-point favorite goes to the Niners. And I can see why. I think this will be a game that they pull off, personally. I know Aaron Rodgers is kind of like Tom Brady in that you probably shouldn't bet against him because you'll probably end up being wrong, but this Niners team has looked pretty legit on defense so far.
The Niners,
aside from about 5 minutes in Detroit.
That's true. The Niners as a whole is a more complete team than Green Bay.
Yes.
Because they have a defense. And Garoppolo, though it doesn't seem like he's had to throw the ball a lot, he doesn't have to do much of anything. I mean, you have a great backfield, great skill players. Your line protects you. You don't have to do much. So it's like, I fully expect this could turn into a shootout or a lopsided blowout in Frisco's favor. Yeah. I mean, obviously they don't have the same defensive players they had when they played Green Bay in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, but I would not be surprised to see, or actually not 2 years ago, last year. Well, never mind. You know what I mean.
But do we, though?
No. I don't even know what I mean anymore. But I think 49ers pulls this one out.
I think so, too. But the final game to get to Monday Night Football, the NFC East, once again on the big stage. Kind of weird to think about that this is the game on the big stage, but I mean, this feels like it happens once a year. You get one of these games where it's like, I do not know why this is here.
You have to remember the sports media loves the Cowboys.
Exactly. How about them Cowboys? Is always one of those things you get to hear.
I'm
Whether you like them or don't, you've probably said it at least once in your life. If
as
you're a
much as
sports
I
fan.
don't like Philadelphia, I do find it, especially with Stephen A., who really dislikes the Cowboys. I just like the stuff where he's just laughing about it
Yeah,
afterwards. But this could be turned into a quarterback battle.
it really could.
Hurts running the show. That defense for Philadelphia could give Prescott some problems, or Prescott goes off on him, and maybe Dallas Cowboys defense does show up. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the question is, which team is going to show up for which side is going to show up stronger for which team? If you're the Cowboys, does the defense show up? Or is it the offense, all offense, no defense? If you're Philadelphia, is that defense going to show up a third week in a row? Because if so, you're going to have a fun time, I think.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt about that.
But you got to have the offense to go with the defense. It's just both these teams feel like there's something missing. Like they're almost there to being a complete team.
Both of them are almost there. Just they missing something. I think they're just Cowboys are missing a few spots on the defensive side because they have solid players at certain positions. They just need to get it filled out. Their offense, I don't think has big of an issue but I will say they need a better run game for the most part. But I think Philadelphia is the more better overall team.
I think so.
I would not be surprised if they go into Arlington and beat Dallas.
I think it'll be interesting because it's the home opener for the Cowboys. This is their first game at home this week. They'll be ramped up. They'll be ready to go. And it will not matter because I think Philadelphia wins.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I just don't trust Dallas's defense. Unless Dallas's defense shows a consistency starting from obviously last week to the next few weeks, I'll probably I'll turn around on them saying, hey, they might actually be better, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those that the NFC East is kind of just a battle of who do you trust the most, but still don't really trust them because I mean, the NFC East is such a wonky division that we've talked about. I mean, I really don't believe in any of these teams to go deep at all.
No.
But if you got to pick one.
There's improvements.
Oh, absolutely, there's improvement, but it's still just everyone else improves too.
Yeah, but once again, obviously both of us are picking Philly to win. As much as it pains me to pick Philadelphia in anything,
it is kind of interesting to see that Jalen Hurts is both the leading passer and leading the team in rushing yards.
I mean, when you can throw and run the football, it's like you don't need to worry about having to put all that pressure on your running back.
Exactly, and it'll be interesting to see how Dallas does against a dual threat quarterback. Yeah. This is the first one they faced this year.
Yep.
I believe that will do it. We've made it through every single game. You know, it's really hard to think. You know, we're only in here for an hour, and yet we've covered 2 weeks of football, and then we'll be here Thursday covering college football. I mean, getting ready for that.
I'm gonna be very excited to talk about that.
It's gonna be a fun week.
You're probably gonna hear me rant.
I mean, that's just how that works.
Yeah, but it's gonna follow my ranting on not on last week and probably something this week.
Probably, I mean, with not to tip our hand too much, but with Oklahoma State and Kansas State being on ESPN Plus, that's gonna, I'm sure that's ruffled a few feathers for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that we'll save that for Thursday, or
please do. Otherwise, I'm gonna go off.
Yeah, or else we're gonna be here until the sun comes up tomorrow morning.
Probably just gonna turn into you having to leave to go do something, and I'm just ranting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to school tomorrow, and you'll just have a 24-hour stream of just complaining about ESPN Plus.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we pretty much have covered everything so far. We'll be back here on Thursday.
We will. I mean, this will be, like we mentioned, just another fun week of the NFL. I mean, I think the main storyline we'll see out of this week, some of these storylines, how good are some of these teams we thought would be kind of above average, like a Pittsburgh or someone who we knew would be good, but we didn't know how good. We'll learn a little bit more about them. You always learn a little bit more every single week.
Yep.
But I've always kind of talked week 3, week 4 is when we really kind of get a feel for how good or how bad or how average most of these teams are.
You like to think that, but then you realize certain teams might collapse or they'll take
Exactly.
off.
Especially with the 17th week this season. You add another week for something good to happen or something.
Technically 18 weeks if you count the bye.
Yeah, technically, but 17 games for each team.
I'm not gonna rant about it, but for talking about how they want to talk about how they want to prevent brain injuries. Why add another week of football? I mean, as a fan, I love it, but concerned about player safety, it's like that's not helping. But that's a
For
topic
a
for
very simple reason. Nothing stops for money.
I know, but that's a topic for another day.
It is. We'll get to that at some point down the line. Probably when we get later on in the season, we'll talk about that.
Yep.
But that will wrap it up for us today. Once again, for Connor Gray, I'm Cade Kennedy. We are the guys who stare at stats, and have a great night, everybody.